We are today with Oded Wiener, the former Director General of the Chief Rabbinate of Israel. He served on this position since January 2001 till December 2014. Very special years for the Chief Rabbinate regarding the theme of interfaith dialogue, and especially the dialogue between the Vatican and the Chief Rabbinate of Israel. Before we begin with our theme, I would like to express on this day, because we are recording on May the 11th, 2021, I would like to express my deep concern and solidarity with the whole population of the State of Israel in these hours of violence. I'm praying for the soon establishment of peace, of no violence. Now, let us go to our questions. Following the historic pilgrimage of John Paul II to the Holy Land in 2000, a bilateral commission for interfaith dialogue between the Vatican and the Chief Rabbinate of Israel was established. On June the 5th, 2002, which means when you were Director General of the Chief Rabbinate of Israel, delegations from the Commission of the Holy See for Religious Relations with the Jews and the Chief Rabbinate in Israel meet in Jerusalem. Began a special era, I would say, for in the dialogue between the Vatican and the Jewish people at large, and especially with the Jews living in Israel. We, in our historical records, we know about a meeting between the Pope Leo XIII with Theodore Herzl, and a very dramatic meeting between Pius XII with the then Chief Rabbi of Israel, Arav Chaim Herzl. And this is the first time that the Vatican, in an official way, is entering in a dialogue, not only with rabbis, because with rabbis we can bring many examples from around the world, but with a rabbinical entity of the State of Israel. So you were a key officer in this work. So tell us, how was the dialogue? Tell us about the achievements of the dialogue. Let us hear and learn from a witness about this very special and particular chapter in Jewish history.
Thank you, Alex Conca. I'm not sure whether you are one of the people that started the dialogue with the Pope, since you were supposed to be his best friend for many years, already from Argentina, and until today. It's unbelievable, this friendship between the Pope and yourself. But I'm talking about the current Pope, but no doubt that your influence in Argentina arrived also to Rome at the time. So we thank you also for your influence, for your generosity to this procedure, and you are one of the time. But no doubt that we are talking about a new era of relationship between the Jewish people and the Holy See. You know that for so many years of exile, we're talking about almost 2,000 years, there was a great tense in understatement between the Christian and Jewish people. We suffer along the years from pogroms, from prejudice, from anything, any evil thing against Jewish people, almost all over the world. And when John Paul II, after his historic visit in 1986 to the Great Synagogue in Rome, decided to come to Israel and to do it in public, not only as a private visit, but to meet each and every person, the prime minister and the president and the chief rabbis. It was a great move and a great step forward. And uh, the very fact that he even came to the Western Wall and put his forgiveness note in the Kotel, in the Western Wall, it was something unbelievable. I was at the time uh, in charge, the director general of all the Jewish holy sites in Israel, and I was the one to welcome him at the Western Wall. And I'm sure that you know he was a very, very unique person. The term of John Paul II as a pope is the second longest time in the history of the church, 25 years and a half. And he was admired by his people, by Christians all over the world. If we will have time later on, I will give you some samples to this admiration that it was unbelievable. But not only that, in his last years, he was quite sick. But even when he was in Israel, but despite the fact that he was very sick, he didn't give up. He came and he did everything that he wanted in advance. And I believe that the Christian people admire him not only because of his special personality, but they saw him as a person that took upon himself all their sins, all their, and asked for forgiveness for all of them. Therefore, it was very, very special to get to know this person. And I think that he showed the way to the popes that came after him. And every single pope, I'm talking about Franciscus, and I'm talking about Benedictus, they felt the necessity also to come to Israel, also to come to the Western world, to follow the footsteps of John Paul II. Now, as you mentioned, when he met John Paul II, when he came on March 2000, when he came on March 2000, the 21st of March came to Israel, and he certainly met the chief rabbis of Israel in what we call the historic place of the chief rabbi Sechar Shlomo. Every single rabbi wanted to be there to see this historic event. It was something very unique. And I think, I'm almost sure, that it was his idea to come and to offer the chief rabbis to form a committee, a joint committee of the Holy See, of very senior people from the Holy See, and very senior rabbis from the chief rabbinate, to form this committee in order to dialogue and have meetings on crucial questions and issues that are for concern for both religions. And it's for the chief rabbis, it wasn't so easy to accept something like that. Because of our history, because of whatever we passed through during the years, it took a while to even to think about it seriously and not only to accept it. And therefore, it took, as you mentioned, almost 2 years until the first meeting came through. And I did have the privilege to be the coordinator of our committee. I was in charge of the Jewish side, and from the Christian side was Father Norbert Hoffman. And both of us were the coordinator. We have a very good relationship, so good that Norbert Hoffman even claimed that the Pope called him the chief rabbi of the Holy See. So I, after the chief rabbis nominated our committee, that late Rabbi Shar Yeshuv Cohen, that was a prominent rabbi, the chief rabbi of Haifa, and certainly a rabbi of the chief rabbinate council, very, very special man that knew fluent English. He was the chairman of our committee, and from the holy site, it was Cardinal Mejia. So
an Argentinian one.
yeah, but certainly you overcome all the world. And so firstly, we gathered together only only our committee, and we decided on certain rules before we going to start our dialogue. And we spoke about a few points. Certainly, we have to respect each other. There is no doubt there will be no missionary from both sides, of course. Jewish are not missionaries, but in Christianity, a missionary is also obligation sometimes. So we decided that we have to clarify in the very first meeting there will be no missionary of the Christian side. We decided also at the beginning to speak about mutual problems or issues that, as I mentioned before, are in concern for both communities, but not to going deeply into religious points. If you want to create an understanding, to create an honest dialogue, you better going step by step and not jump to the deep water right away. So it was, and also we decided that one meeting will be in Jerusalem every year, and the alternate meeting will be in Rome. So we will be able to reflect both roots and both history of the Holy See and the Jewish people. So in the first meeting, we decided it was in Jerusalem, as I mentioned, and we decided of, as I mentioned, mutual respect and admiration to the decision of John Paul II and the chief rabbis that took these brave steps and created this committee. And we spoke about especially today, it's very, very important, about the sanctity of human life and that the obligation of religious leaders to educate their communities, especially the youngsters, about the other religion, because there is a total ignorance, I believe, from both sides about the other religion. Many Jewish people don't know nothing about Judaism, and the same thing applies to Christian people. And as more as you educated and as more as you get to know the other, then it's much easier, because I cannot hate you if I know you personally. If we sit around the same table and we are talking about how, I'm not talking about formality, that's certainly very, very important. But I mean, between, in the breaks, in the meals, we're talking informal conversation, and we're talking about families, we're talking about things that are going on both in Italy, both in Israel, and it's a very, very open conversation, but really very, very open, even though, it was very interesting that they make when we met the first time in the Grotta Ferrate in New Rome, and I will tell you in a minute one word about this very unique place. Certainly, all the food was kosher food, of course, and even the cardinals, we have few cardinals from the Christian side ate with us the kosher food, and it became an a regular thing to all our meetings that we eat the kosher food. I told them to be cautious and to be careful not to get used to it too much. Uh, but that showed the willpower and the atmosphere that actually took place in our meetings. Uh, the Also the meeting in Gotha Karate that I mentioned that it's a very unique place because after the Holocaust, when the Jewish people that survived in Rome and in Italy were they came to go to Perate as a location uh, before they went to Israel, before they were shipped to Israel. And therefore, it was such a unique place that after the Holocaust, and we know about the dispute that is about Pius XII and his reaction during the Holocaust, whether it could take the Jewish people or not, or what was his approach, whether he cooperated or not. I'm not going to get into this subject now. But to come to the place that the Jewish people that were survived from Holocaust and to have our first meeting in Rome in this place, it was a very moving meeting, and we were very excited and thrilled by the fact that that was the place that was chosen by the Holy See. I can tell you, about every meeting, the topic of every meeting and so on, but if you have a question meanwhile, feel free, to ask me.
Good. I would like to give some beside commentaries some of your words when you mentioned that that you cannot hate you can hate a person or the way to hate a person or the way that demagogues and tyrants use to create anti-Semitism and other expressions of hate was on the base of unknowledge. When you don't know who the other is, you can transform the other in a devil, in a Satan. And this was the history, because that when you said that we sat together and we began knowing more and more each the other, this is the way to build up a bridge of I would say of love. And why? Because, as you well know, one of the expressions of the synonyms of love in the Bible is leheov. Of the synonyms of love is lada'a. Leheov is to love.
No.
Yeah, leheov. The synonym of leheov, to love, is lada'at, to know. And okay, we can talk a lot about this verb as a synonym of ahava, of love, starting from the very famous verse in Hosea, Veyadatet Hashem, and you are going to know God. We are going to bond with God through ahava, through love, through the fulfillment of the commandments, and then we are going to enter the relationship of ahava, of love. Now, another point is what you commented. It's a commentary by side that I would like to express. Not to talk about theological themes. This is the very famous Soloveitchik starting point that for sure you heard about. We can talk about everything, but not theology. In some way, I talked with Pope Francis and with other people now here working in Philadelphia about theology. The point is, uh, the point is to maintain a great respect. Your first words, the first point towards the other. Okay, I would like to know deeply in what you believe, really. We are not going to discuss, we cannot repeat the terrible disputations of the Middle Ages, but we can try to understand what is, and maybe that in our common knowledge, what really are you believing? Are you, what is God for you? In other details. Okay, it's important. Only the person who has a strong belief in God, the person who knows Judaism, who understands his own belief, is very strong not to be, in quotation signs, convinced by the other to change his personality. I recorded with Pope Francis a short video in which he expresses 3 times on the same in the same sentence that never ever we try to convince each the other. We spoke about everything. Okay, this is just a comment. Uh, what I would like to know is,
with your
yes,
permission,
please,
I want to react
please,
to whatever you said just now. You know that the
yes,
very famous saying by Rabbi Akiva, one of our most important sages, that in all religion actually, love your neighbor or your friend like yourself. I saw recently a fact very similar to this, that love the other and the different like yourself, not only your neighbor, not only your friend, but love also the other and the different people like yourself. And this is very difficult because, as we mentioned, you have to get to know him and to respect and to understand. You have your own principle and he has his own principle. You know, there are 1 billion and a quarter Christians around the world. We are more. We are only about 12 million. There are only 1 billion. But we have to respect, that was a joke. We have to respect these people that have their deep belief in Christianity and they worship according to their regulation. And therefore, when we come to dialogue with them, we have to understand that these people are very serious people. By the way, the most senior people in the hierarchy of the Vatican are knowledgeable people and are very familiar with Jewish sources. So it's very interesting to deal with them. You are talking with intelligent people that you can dispute, and it's unbelievable. It's very, very, very interesting to hear sometimes, to sit and to listen between the argument between a cardinal and a chief rabbi, and to see that basically they can push together. If the religious leader around the world could cooperate, we could. I always believe that we could change the world in a way, because to push and to support peace and understanding between people, and to condemn violence, and to condemn any use or misuse of the name of God for violence, or to try to force anyone to believe in any religion. It's impossible, because if you force him, deeply inside he doesn't believe in whatever you force him. So what did you gain in trying to force him? You, on the contrary, you make him to be against it. And therefore, when John Paul II said, it was unbelievable. It also Benedictus, and especially Franciscus now, when they say, we cannot hate the Jewish people. They are our brothers. They are older brothers. And we are continuing the roots. And they were, and later on, it was very interesting thing by that say they are not only brothers, because in Genesis you see that there were many fights or many arguments among brothers in Genesis. So they say they are not our brothers, the Jewish people, they are our parents. And as parents, we have to respect the Jewish people. And I think the change, and it was in the formal press of the Vatican that was sent to each and every church and priest around the world, and to see that their leader, the Pope, said something like that about Jews. I think that is unbelievable. It's historical thing that changed the approach, I believe, of so many Christian people. We still have work to do to get to the last simple people in, I don't know, in Europe, in Western Europe, in Eastern Europe, in Africa, in Asia, and to believe and to understand what the Pope said. But it's a great and giant step forward.
You know that Franciscus, Pope Francis, for me is Francisco in Spanish. He said on many occasions, on each Christian there is also in the depth of the being Christian, there is a Jew, because they see the Christianity as a real continuation. Okay, we don't share this kind of continuation. We have our rabbinical Jewish continuation, but the Jewishness of the first century, they see the continuation. So we said, on each Christian there is a Jew. We have to understand that, of course. Regarding, you have to love your neighbor as yourself, and your explanation. This reminds me a midrash from Tanhuma, where appears that according to Rabbi Akiva, you have to, this very famous verse in Leviticus 19, you have to love your neighbor as yourself. This is a clarigadol Torah. This is a synthesis, a summary of the old teachings of the Torah. But Ben Azai was not. Exactly. The verse that describes that human being was created on the image of God is greater. Why? Because you have to respect. It's not a matter only of love. Love is something very special. First step, you have to respect. Okay, let us go to our last question. What are you expecting more from the dialogue? Now you have other positions in your life. You are not on this very positions, but of course you continue related to this position, because in our meetings in Europe, thanks God, that we continue meeting each other. But what more would you expect from this dialogue? Because the dialogue is great. The advancements and the approaching that we did and we do with Christianity at large and with the Catholic Church in special, really are very, very important, as you emphasize that. But what more could be done in order to to give something in order to improve this very sad reality of humankind? It's possible to do something more.
Not on the contrary, not that it's impossible, it's very possible to do something more, and I will explain. Firstly, I didn't, left my position as the coordinator of this committee. When I left my position as Director General of the Chief Rabbinate Council, the Chief Rabbis asked me to continue as a volunteer, I do it, to be in charge of this committee. And not on a daily basis, but I'm working all the time. Unfortunately, we know that last year with the corona, we couldn't meet, but I can tell you that we exchange messages all the time. I think only last week I wrote to Hoffman and he wrote to me and to Cardinals, and that's the first step, to continue, not to stop. It's a very important journey that we started, and if we want to get to the station, we have to continue. And the station is not a place that you get off the bus. A station is the first station in the many stations to get to cooperation, to get to mutual work, to improve the world, tikkun olam. Tikkun olam, to fix the world, to correct the world, to do whatever is possible with religion, with our beautiful religion, in order to improve the world. And we know that there is so much to do around the world. It's not only our closed area of the Middle East. There is almost every corner of the world, there is some riots, war, confrontation, whatever. And there was, I think, almost not one day since the Second World War that was a peaceful day without no war around the world. So we have still many, many things to do. That's the one thing. Secondly, our committee is in the highest level. And by the way, there were many, many dialogues beforehand, and that I will get to it in a minute. But in the eyes of the Holy See, in the eyes of the Pope, to have a dialogue with the Chief Rabbinate of Israel and with the Chief Rabbis of Israel that seems to the Holy See as the highest formal hierarchy of the Jewish world in terms of rabbinical and heritage and represent the Jewish people of the world in terms of religion. That was for them, it was a target, it was an achievement, and it was very important. And I think for us, it's also very, very important. And this is a dialogue in the highest level. But your question was, what else can we do? What more can we do? And the answer, I think, firstly, not only to continue in the highest level of the dialogue, each and every place, like Philadelphia, the Zoom that we are doing right now, and your student, to get them to know each other, to get them to get into one room and to talk to each other, to understand to get to know people from abroad, from inside, from the state, from South America, from North America, from Canada, I don't know, to get to know prominent Jewish figures, to get to know prominent Christian figures, and as many dialogues around the world that will be between our people, our religion, it will be better for the world. And the you mentioned anti-Semitism that unfortunately in the last few years it's again raising their ugly faces around the state, and we have to fight and to do our utmost to confront this phenomenon. And therefore, in order to confront this and in order to explain to the people that are anti-Semite, what are you doing? You are our brothers, and you can't fight your brother. And therefore, as many dialogue as possible, it's extremely important. And no doubt that the most important thing is education. Education starting from the kindergarten all the way to the university, because we are, we are not old. We are, very young. But the youngest people, the next generation, for them is extremely important. They grew up in a different world, in an open world, and if we will be able to use the networks, the internet, all the I'm not that familiar with all the TikTok and with all the Facebook and with all the facilities that the youngsters are using today. They are extremely knowledgeable. But if we will be able to use these networks in order to bring people together, to get to know people together. You are now in Philadelphia, I'm now in Israel, and we're talking like you are in the next room. So we can do it whatever we could do 20 years ago. The world changed, and we have to use this opportunity to educate the next generation, because they don't have all this bad history on their back. And if we learn and we teach them in order to look from the good part of our relationship, from with the good eyes, with the willpower to change the world together and to use this opportunity, it will be great.
Oded, thank you so much. Receive virtually a great hug as we use to hug each the other, to embrace each the other when we meet in Rome or in Belgium or the other places we met. So, and
I want to mention another 2 points. One point, it's also very useful when you know people around the world that you dialogue with them. If there is any problem, there is a person to talk to. For example, when there was the problem with the priest that denied the Holocaust, we could speak immediately with the Holy See, and we straightened the thing. That's number one. Number two, your student should know who is the lecturer, Rabbi Skorka. I think that throughout the history, during the history, there were very, very, very few, perhaps on one hand you can count them, that could come as a personal friend to the Holy See and to talk with the Pope in a closed room as friends on every single thing in the world, and to use it to the benefit of the Jewish people and the Christian people and for the world. So we want to thank you for the Rabbi Shkoka.
Thank you a lot, Oded. And you are a grandfather, right? You are a grandfather.
Right.
God bless me, bless us, me and my wife, and we are also grandparents. So half of the blessing, Ure banim levanecha, and you are going to see the sons of your sons already is materialized. Let God bless us with the other part of the blessing. Shalom al Israel, peace on Israel and on the
all the world.
entire world and the whole.
Shalom, thank you, and all the best.